we say buy your net worth today, we're not just guessing on what that cost is or if you can afford it. We know how to show you how the money's already flowing through your life and where you can prioritize how you can be able to pay for it today. And you will be stoked to pay for it today because you now will know what to do with it as it continues to work for you, so that you don't have to wait 30 years down the road at an unknown time, at an unknown tax rate, in an unknown economical climate or environment.
To operate off your gross income, not your net income, because your net income is substantially less that you get to work with. So when I think about that, to me, what gets me excited is this idea that if my gross income is what I can lock in, I can make up for a lot of bad decisions I made with money throughout my lifetime. I can refund those bad decisions back to money. Welcome to the Cashflow Legendz podcast with your hosts Nate, Brandon, and Brock. Remember, our insights are not direct financial advice, so consult with your financial team before making any decisions based on the topics discussed in this show.
Good morning. Welcome back to Cashflow Legendz, Unlimited Life Concepts.
Nate and Brandon.
I see you shaking your head, and I know why you're shaking your head, Nate.
Yeah, because we're toying with the idea of maybe in the future, just sort of me and Brandon creating our own podcast. We have a great relationship with Brock. Still gonna record with Brock. Brock brings a lot of value to the conversation, but Brandon and I just have different conversations sometimes. And Brock has no desire to record live on Mondays the way we do this. Yep. So we're like, maybe we'll just turn this into our own thing at some point,
We'll see. What we've learned is we're called to be good stewards of whatever opportunities we have.
For sure.
Nate, so we decided today we're going to talk a little bit about our recent trip to the Nelson Nash Think Tank in Birmingham, Alabama. It was our 5th to attend. Am I right on that, Nate?
That's right.
All right.
If you count the virtual one that they did in 2021, it would technically be 6, but yeah.
Okay.
5 in person.
5 in person. And there were about 250 practitioners there, several guests there, several, people that were parts of other teams in the world that we're in, with Nelson Nash is becoming your own banker. And, if you're ever just curious about what does this Nate and Brandon do, you can go to Nelson Nash's website, infinitebanking.org, and get a ton of great resources there.
For sure. Go to their YouTube channel, Nelson Nash Institute YouTube channel. If you keep scrolling long enough, you'll find an episode where me and Brandon were interviewed on their podcast.
Yes.
But there's a ton of great resources just on their YouTube channel. In fact, I got off the plane Saturday morning and pulled up a playlist of just conversations with Nelson Nash and just had a great time listening to him.
And so for those of you who don't know, almost every Monday, Nate and I meet at around 10 o'clock and we do a book review. And normally it's faith-based. So right now we're going through a book called The 25 Biblical Laws of Partnership with God. For any of my business owners out there, even if you have your own household and you don't run your own business per se, you're still running a business. You are in partnership with the Lord at all times in anything that we do.
Businesses operate off of revenue and expenses. Households operate off of income and expenses.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully a husband and wife who can communicate about it well.
For sure.
Hopefully. We say that when we say things like that, Nate and I need you to understand the only way that we could ever say something like that is if we realize that our wives would come on here and go, yeah, these two knuckleheads have not always done a great job of communicating well.
No, that's for sure. We like to say that we show up to conversations with a lot of humility because we know that we have not always done it the right way.
That's right. And we know we're probably going to screw it up again. So
probably so.
All right. So the goal here today, Nate, we had the privilege, and I do mean privilege, to speak at the think tank. We spoke the last day after lunch, which is always a slot for a speaker that's concerning, just in my mind, with what little I know about speaking engagements. But it was a great opportunity for us to spend the whole week learning from others in the community. And Nate, before we talk about what our topic was and kind of what we're going to talk about today, with you being the greatest asset and what that really means.
Oh, thank you.
Um, no, what what was what was maybe one or two things that you only had a day or two to reflect, that you took away from the think tank, and frame anything up for anybody's like, what the heck's the think tank?
Yeah, well, my review of my notes and things like that is coming later today. You and I both put some time on our schedule to kind of reflect on all the things that we heard, and
Yep.
um, but the my overall takeaway is really personal because I just love that community. Like I love that community, and being recognized. So they did something special this year that they had not done in the past, where they recognize the people who consistently show up and add value to the community, and being recognized as one of those people um, allowed us to have some conversations with others that were maybe new, that we may not have had before, because they didn't they were so new that they didn't know that we were the ones that they might want to talk to, or
Yep.
realize that because some people don't realize that we're as old as we are.
Mm.
And
Or
so
that we've been in the
we've been doing
practitioner
this for
and
8
think tank
years.
world.
Yeah. And so I it my biggest takeaway was what a blessing it is to be a part of the community as long as we have, and the opportunity that we get. I mean, almost an endless amount of opportunity that we have to pour into others that are trying to grow and share this message the right way.
And Nate, I agree with all that. And I could definitely spend quite a bit of time talking about that. Um, I'm going to say the other side of it. There are several in the community that have been doing it way longer than we have. And just their encouragement, their thoughts related to their relationship with Nelson, their experiences with Nelson, and just sharing that with us in a way that helps us feel accepted.
Which
You
I'll
know, in this,
say, Mary Jo, if you're out there, you have no idea how much that meant to us.
yeah, absolutely. And it just this is a very, very small community, but it shouldn't be. Probably never said it or thought about it that way, but it's a tiny little community that's whole goal is to build the 10%, because it's proven that if you get 10% of anything going in the right direction, it can have a tidal wave effect for things that could change history. And we believe that about what Nelson taught in Becoming Your Own Banker. So a lot of times people go, well, whole life insurance has been around forever and Nelson didn't come up with the idea. Okay, whole life has been around for hundreds of years. But as far as it we can find and know, Nelson wrote Becoming Your Own Banker, showing how to practice the process of banking through a whole life policy in a way that got brought to the you and me level. And so one thing I love about the community is almost everybody there, Nate. I mean, like, out of the hundreds of people I felt like I talked to, 99% of them are living and practicing Nelson's principles and message, or trying to, because of the impact it's brought to their life, their finances, their peace of mind, their relationship, their businesses. And they're like, why wouldn't we want to share this with other people?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that we talk about when it comes to how we got started, it wasn't something that we found. It really found us. And it was because of the overflow of gratitude and excitement for what we were doing for ourselves that we were like, wouldn't it be cool to go teach other people how to do this? And man, what a blessing it is. April will be 8 years since we started ULC. It's
Wow.
it's been it's been a painful experience at times,
Mm-hmm.
but the overall theme is what a blessing, and thank you, Lord, that we are sitting right here now and we can see just his goodness in what we've been able to be a part of.
And Nate, it was a very humbling thing to get to bring my parents. They came with us to the think tank, and they were there for our talk on stage and several other things. And just, our families live this mindset, this behavior, this thought process. And so a lot of people in the community that you and I listened to early on or sought advice from or had pour into us because of their experience. James Nethery, Ryan Griggs, Mike Everett, Chris Bay, Mary Jo, the list goes on and on. Dad getting to meet those people was really cool. Paul Figuere, Dave Beffert, John Pairings, all these guys that are buddies of ours. And I think it reminded me, Nate, that you cannot ever put a price tag on longevity in relationships. Like the value that comes from that, and even the new blood, if you will, or the new people at the think tank, they all said something similar to you and I when we had a chance to visit with them. They're like, there's just something different about this community. Now, for those of you who have never read Becoming Your Own Banker, go read it. Nelson said it very simple. Nate, you reminded me of this morning. If you're not willing to read a 92-page book to potentially change your life and the way you think, then we're not gonna be able to help you.
Yeah. What what are you spending your time doing right now that's not moving the needle in your life at all? Block off a couple hours and do something that's either going to teach you something new. Worst case scenario, you're going to learn something new. I
Yeah.
promise you, if you read Becoming Your Own Banker, you're going to learn something new, because how many times have we read it and we keep learning new stuff?
Yeah. What did our mentor Mike Everett say? I think Dad was telling me this.
600 times?
600 times he's read it.
Over
Now,
600 times he's read the book.
and the book is a workbook. So Nelson used to travel around and do a 10-hour, 2-day seminar. And when the message started taking hold a little bit, thank goodness they decided to write the book. Because can you imagine Nate trying to talk somebody into watching a 10-hour seminar on a CD?
Yeah. It was people that were attending a seminar that encouraged him to write the book. And he said, you know, the idea of writing a book seemed really daunting at the time, but then he realized I had all the material. I just had to organize it,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. Nate, we got so much value from this the past couple of days, and I got to go to an event tied to one of the carriers that we do business with. That was super valuable as well, and just another reminder before the week of Alabama. And I think it'll really segue perfectly into what we're going to talk about today, Nate. You are the asset. So our dear buddy Brock wrote a great article this morning about the cost of capital. And it wasn't exactly that, but it was about having debt, paying off debt, and how to think of that. And it really brings you back to you are the greatest asset and how you think about how you think.
Yeah. So our friend Rob just commented, the 10 hours or the reading of the book will help kick off a lifetime of learning. Amen, brother.
Yep.
Amen. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
And what did Nelson say? This is all about how you think.
Think.
This is all about how you think. This is all about how you think. And Nate, we want to be doing life with people who love to think and learn and grow, ask thought provoking questions, and go, what if?
Yeah.
Because then he says, in Becoming Your Own Banker, Once we know the problem, solution is very clear, simple, but then it's imagination.
Which leads perfectly into what we're going to talk about, because this was part of our talk at the, so we were privileged to be able to be one of the keynote speakers at the Think Tank event. And one of the things that Nelson said is, when you understand the how, excuse me, let me rephrase that, start over. When you understand the why,
Yeah.
the how doesn't matter that much. And when you understand the why, the how and the what make a lot more sense, put it that way.
That's a good way to put it.
And so what we're going to do is walk through an exercise that we did in our talk around human life value. And this frames out the why. And so let me share my screen real quick. We'll switch gears. All right. So I'm not going to ask you this, Brandon, because you already know this, but I'll just frame this out to the people who are listening. Most people believe that they can buy as much life insurance as they can afford, as much life insurance as they want. And that's not true. Because we can only buy as much life insurance as the insurance company is willing to offer us. So most people walking around today believe that life insurance is an option. Life insurance is not an option. Life insurance is a privilege. And so that whole idea of how much life insurance is available is based off of something called your human life value. So we got this tool called the human life value calculator that we're just going to walk through real quick as soon as I can get to the right tab. All right, there we go. Brandon, you are, for a few more weeks, you are 44 years old.
44 and getting younger.
And when do you anticipate, let's just, for easy numbers, let's just use the typical retirement age, 65.
Yep. Perfect.
And for easy numbers, again, let's assume $100,000 income.
Okay. That's gross, everybody. That's
yes,
key piece.
That's gross annual income. So what that means is, for rough numbers, the insurance company is willing to insure you for around $2.1 million. Now, something that we also have to factor in is your average annual increase for most people is going to be around 4%.
Yep.
So if we factor in a 4% annual income growth rate, then that 2.1 turns into more like 3.2 million. So in this example, Brandon, you're not a $100,000 asset. You're a $3.2 million asset.
Hey, let's role play this real quick.
Okay.
Anybody out there that's starting a new job, I don't care if you're 18, 25, 35, 40. Imagine if when you walked in, we all have to do that new member paperwork, new employee paperwork that we all love to do. Sometimes it's digital now. Well, we typically go into the HR, office at some point, or we have a conversation on the phone. Imagine if at the top of that HR paperwork, you are coming to work for X, Y, or Z company. This is your gross income. And statistically speaking, with hundreds of years of proof, you're going to make 100 grand this year, gross. And you're going to be worth $3 million because of the proven 4% annual growth rate. How much of that do you want to be sure goes to your family? How much of that do you want to be sure stays in your life? You are your greatest asset. Now, imagine, Nate, if you and I would have had that conversation at our first job where we were signing up for anything, and we only had a choice between that and this other product. Not that you'd have to, but let's just say you did. I know which one I'm picking. And I'm probably gonna like have some brain freeze because I'm gonna be like, what are we talking about? I've never
Well,
heard this said. I don't know what you mean. What do you
well,
mean?
and that's something that's misunderstood because when you start talking about life insurance, people are like, "Oh, well, you're talking about death." No, we're talking about value.
That's good.
So if you're if something happens to you in this example and your income stops, like you graduate, does your mortgage stop? Do the
Oh,
groceries stop? Do your childcare expenses stop? You know, all these different things. The bills continue, but the engine stops.
yeah, Nate. Imagine we could revolutionize the HR department at any business. I'm thinking about all my years in education. You know, your wife was in education for a long time, maybe again one day, but she knows this as well. In pastoral communities and churches, any of that. If you walk in and you go, Nate, my first job, I was 24 working in Grapeland, Texas as a coach, making no money, but I was still making money. All right. It was probably 40 grand a year, maybe gross. Golly, that's wild to say.
Yeah.
40 grand a year.
What was the net after
It
that?
was it was it was rice and beans and pennies is what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
So
Well, and they're sucking money out of your paycheck to fund, some
TRS, and I was
future.
actually paying for my college, no, my teacher certification training that I went through.
Yeah.
So thank goodness I was living in a 300 square foot efficiency apartment on the connected to the Iskies who loved me and fed me a lot. Um, but imagine if I'd have walked into that HR department. Yep, David, think about any nonprofit. Absolutely. We're actually having a lot of conversations about that locally in our hometowns. Imagine I walked in and the HR person goes, hey, Brandon, hey, Nate, you're going to make 40 grand this year, but you're only 24 years young. And so, Nate, that typically would be we know this, a multiplier of 30. So if he said to me, you're going to have $1.2 million flow through your life, 1.2 million. Would you like to protect that to be sure it goes to whoever you care about the most? Absolutely. What if it costs like 10, 15, $20 a month? I'm just making up numbers. Don't hold me to that. But life insurance will never be cheaper than it is today.
Yeah.
And it will never be more insurable than we are today. So we know this. 20-year-olds, they can get millions of dollars of coverage for under $50 a month. Now, Nate, you just hit a very important point earlier, and I want everybody to hear this. If we were just selling life insurance for the point of death, that would be one thing. It'd still be valuable. It'd still be awesome. It'd still be beneficial. But we're not just selling it, we're teaching you how to use it for a living. And Nate, what did Nelson say about insurance and how it should have been renamed something else?
Yeah. He said it should have been named as a personal monetary system, a cash flow system with a death benefit.
Yeah. Nate, you were talking about this earlier. If we put the benefits of whole life insurance as a bank product and you walked into the bank and you saw all these things listed that we're talking about, guaranteed protection of income, guaranteed death benefit, guaranteed ability to borrow against it while it still grows uninterrupted, tax deferred, usually tax free growth if you know how to use it. And that list kept going on and on. Nate, how long would that line be to sign up for that product versus the conventional checking or savings account?
Dude, I mean, you could take the aspects of a savings account, which people understand, and the bank comes out with this new enhanced savings plan that goes something like this. Hey, you're going to put money into this account, and there's going to be a portion of it that you're going to be able to establish as an ever increasing line of credit. We're going to continue to pay interest on the account, but as that account grows, you can not pull it out of there where you interrupt the growth of it, but you can borrow against it and allow it to grow uninterrupted. Oh, and by the way, we're also going to put a multiplier of death benefit protection on it so that if something happens to you prematurely, your family gets a windfall of money.
And what is going to stop 99% of people from putting their money there? What has to be said to
Whole life
detour?
insurance. It's whole life insurance.
Bingo.
As soon as they hear it's whole life insurance, they go, "Oh no, Dave Ramsey."
All right, Nate. So
The reason why we can say that is because we used to do the same thing.
absolutely.
Like it's not it. We have been doing this our entire life. We had a revolution that took place in our mindset and in our thinking once we discovered the truth of what this really was.
Nate, I love that point. We were talking about one of our members of the Nelson Nash Institute that's been doing it for a long time, who knew Nelson well. And you were just making the point of how confident he is because he's lived it. I mean, he's essentially lived 2 lifetimes in both worlds. And the world he's in now, he just knows that it's a better place to put your dollars. And he knows why. And so there's a couple of other things that are important for anybody watching now or watching later. Just because something seems to be true doesn't mean it is. So a lot of the questions that we did throughout the think tank week, we have this thing called Slido where they pop questions up and see, they were pulled from Nelson's 10-hour presentation. And they were questions that the answer seemed obvious. But the obvious answer was not the correct answer. And the point of that, Nate, was misclassification is dangerous.
Yeah, the little black box that's on an airplane. Everybody knows what the black box is. It's basically this indestructible thing that if an airplane
Crashes.
Yeah, if an airplane crashes or anything like that, they can pull the data because the data is protected inside of this box to make sure that they understand what happened, what took place. Well, this black box is technically not a black box, it's orange. Why do they call it a black box? Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe it used to be black, but now it's orange, but they still call it a black box. The thing that I didn't say earlier when we were talking about the savings account, the new enhanced savings plan, is when you do, as you are building out this line of credit and you are borrowing against it, you get to create the terms for yourself as far as when and how it gets repaid.
I want you to say
Brandon,
that again and slower.
yeah, you get to create the terms for yourself as far as when and how it gets repaid.
Mm.
When has a bank ever loaned you money and say, just pay it back when you get ready?
Brother, if they're out there, call me.
Pay it back when you get ready and when it's convenient for you.
Okay. So all you naysayers who watch now or or watching later and you're like, this doesn't make sense. Good. It won't make sense till you are willing to rethink your thinking. Just like Nate and I, it didn't make sense. It hurt our brain. It made us go, there's no way this could be true. And every time we reread Nelson's book, which is a workbook, first line in the book said this is a workbook about the power of dividend paying whole life insurance with a mutual company. Well, a workbook is something you go back to often to refresh your memory, check what you thought, review it again, and it hits you at different seasons of life. So what Nelson knew, and guys, if you're watching and you're like, who's Nelson Nash? Go to the Nelson Nash Institute YouTube and watch any clip you can of Nelson Nash or any of his stuff. You will learn all you need to know about how logical and calm and sound Nelson was. Would that be fair to say, Nate?
For sure. Every story that we've heard about Nelson doesn't do it justice compared to just listening to the man talk.
Mm. Now, I think it's important to say this because if you've never seen or been around or read Become Your Own Banker or had any conversations about it and you're not living it, it's easy for people to go, well, they're making this guy out to be something unbelievable, like
What's
beyond, a man.
Yeah, and what's really cool about that is if Nelson was in a room and someone was trying to prop him up, he might graciously thank them for the compliment, but he would point them to Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. And David Stearns, who is Nelson's son in law, I think it was David who said this to open up kind of our event. And if it wasn't, maybe it was Jason. I don't remember. I've heard it many times, so forgive me if
No,
I
it was
miss.
what yeah, David said it, that he would much rather know about Jesus than know about IBC.
And he also would say, this is not about the man. This is about the mission.
Yep, for sure.
So the truth is, anybody watching, listening, checking out any of this is about you being able to lead your family better.
Yeah.
This is about you being able to take control of things that have been taking control of you that just happen to be connected to money. Because whether we like it or not, Nate, in the world we live in, all tongue in cheek aside, money is relevant. Can't
For
get away
sure.
from it.
For sure. Well, in relation to this right here, if you can look back and confidently say that, yeah, my income has grown in the last 10 years, does it make sense to have protection that is a static or a fixed number? Because if your human life value is increasing every year, shouldn't your protection grow with it?
Yeah. Yeah, Nate, if you reverse engineer that and you forget about whole life for a minute, we're back in the HR department's office and they go, hey, we every year we have a cost of living increase of 4 to 6%. Would you like us to just keep this number the same on your income, or would you like to go ahead and take that increase?
Yeah, because the question, you said it earlier, like how much of your lifetime economic value do you want to guarantee stays in your family? Most people don't decide that number. They leave whatever is left.
Yeah.
And that's not legacy, that's chance.
Yeah. And it's also, Nate, as we see this often in conjunction with your point, we say this often. So anybody listening or watching later, if you find yourself saying, I hope, in any part of your strategy related to money and how it flows through your life, that is not a strategy. And Nate and I are not saying we've got it all figured out, but we know the rules of the game now. And we can introduce you to those rules. You still get to decide how you want to play with those rules.
Well, let's ask a question.
Okay.
Because I think this is really important for people who are listening. If life insurance had no cost at all, how much would you own? When I ask people that question, they say as much as possible, which makes perfect sense because when cost is removed, that's when clarity like really shows up. That's when we start thinking about protection. That's when we start thinking about certainty. We start thinking about responsibility. We start thinking about legacy, like all those different things. And then I would tell someone, and we can show someone this. This is not made up pie in the sky stuff. What if we could show you how to recover the cost of your life insurance many times throughout your lifetime by controlling the banking function in your life? What if it wasn't an expense, but became your financial foundation for everything that you do?
Nate, I wish we could draw this up, and maybe we'll another time. We were talking about this earlier this morning. So the traditional model, and we are not saying that you should participate in the traditional model. What we are saying is you should know why you are or why you are not, and if it is or isn't doing what you want to accomplish. Because in our hundreds, if not thousands, of conversations now, what we found is if you can show someone how they can get their dollars to allow them to have an income plan that allows them to live life on purpose in an earlier season of life with less worry, less doubt, less uncertainty. They pick that every time. Out the window is gone, rate of return. Out the window is gone, start market. All these things are not relevant anymore, or they're very irrelevant compared to everything else. So everybody wants an income plan. How do my dollars create the ability for me to live life as I age and not have to go work more or worry that every day's Saturday? So to say it a different way, Nate, if I said to you as the HR department leader, hey, instead of trying to make 10, 12, 15, 20% rate of return, let's just say 10 for a conservative number, on the 10 to 20% of income you're saving, whether that be in a savings account or in the market or any other capital qualified plan, what if you could start making 2%, 3%, 4% guaranteed, slow and steady, tax free slash deferred? You got to know the terminology and how to use it on 30%, 40%, 50%, 70% of your income. Now, you and I both went to Elysian Fields. I'm proud to be from Elysian Fields, but it's a little bitty town in the middle of nowhere. And if you put those two options beside me on a piece of paper, even though I wouldn't say I'm a math expert, I can tell you which one I'm picking 100 out of 100 times.
The more that we control the banking function in our life, the greater opportunity we have to capture interest on dollars that we would have never captured interest on.
And Nate, when you say banking function, we'll tidy up with this. All Nate's saying is money's going to flow through our life. Period. It's going to flow through our life, and either we're going to have the ability to control how it's flowing through our life, or someone else is going to control it.
Yeah, let's kind of land it with this to kind of finish out the conversation around human life value. Like, what if instead of spending 30 to 40 years of your life trying to build your net worth to a certain number, what if you could buy your net worth today and then build and grow into it throughout your lifetime?
I add one piece to that, Nate, because I get asked this all the time. When we say buy your net worth today, we're not just guessing on what that cost is or if you can afford it. We know how to show you how the money's already flowing through your life and where you can prioritize how you can be able to pay for it today. And you will be stoked to pay for it today because you now will know what to do with it as it continues to work for you, so that you don't have to wait 30 years down the road at an unknown time, at an unknown tax rate, in an unknown economical climate or environment. And you can start living on purpose today with your decision making. That's what we see more than anything, Nate, is it unlocks people to start dreaming and getting creative again. Yep. That's the most uncomfortable thing people go through is, oh, I can use my own creativity with my money.
Yeah, and what we demonstrated today is human life value is the future value of your present cash flow. Your gross cash flow, not your net cash flow.
That's right.
Insurance companies operate off your gross income, not your net income, because your net income is substantially less that you get to work with. Mm-hmm. So when I think about that, to me, what gets me excited is this idea that if my gross income is what I can lock in, I can make up for a lot of bad decisions I made with money throughout my lifetime. I can refund those bad decisions back to my family.
Absolutely. Hey, Nate, let me know what kind of a record death has. Is it like 9 for 10? 10 for 11?
Last I heard, it was like maybe 10 for 10.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
100% if I'm not mistaken.
I think death is 100%, with the exception of one man
Yep.
throughout history. Death is 100%.
So if we know we're going to die, first of all, come talk to us about Jesus, because then death is not scary. But if we know we're going to die, and we already have money flowing through our life that can go towards protecting the guaranteed event of death with a product that guarantees all that money's reimbursed to our family, and we can live with it more effectively by controlling the banking function, why wouldn't we explore that? Nate's not going to answer that, but we've already answered it for ourselves. Why wouldn't you explore it? You have to start leaning into that. And it's normally because what you think to be true isn't. And when we have to change or pivot on something we thought to be true, pride has to be laid down. I'm speaking for mine and Nate's self over and over again. If you're going to experience change, there almost always has to be a moment in a marriage or in a mindset or in a couple or individual where they go, maybe I didn't know what I thought I knew. And that's hard in anything in life. Doesn't matter if it's money, relationships, fitness, anything else. So, Nate, the think tank was a blessing. We were so honored we got to speak. We were honored that we got to see so many people there that are wanting to grow and learn and invest in their greatest asset themselves, their ability to think. If you are uber successful with money, have a great business, or struggling and don't know how to keep money from flowing out of your life or not how to keep up control of it, this mindset will help all ends of the spectrum if you're willing to rethink your thinking. Until the next one, we look forward to seeing you again. Hope you have a blessed week. Call to action. Ring us up. Hit us up. Send us a message. Go to our website. Get on Nate's schedule. There's 100 different ways almost you can connect with us nowadays. Just let us know you're interested, and we will send you stuff for your work to be the filter. Have a great one.